What you know, Alibis? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to have you here. It's still Tuesday, August 26th, day 3 of the Donna Adelson trial in the books. Done. We are going to move on to Mary Hull. She is a financial investigator with the Department of Financial Services in the Office of Fiscal Integrity. In this case, she looked at all the bank records to analyze and detail what was going on in everybody's accounts. She also looked through iCloud, emails, and text messages between all the parties to determine the financial relationship between them and money and gift transfers, as well as how the Adelson Institute received or kept cash. She made graphs with information showing her work. And we're starting off with DMV records for Rivera. After the murder, he acquired a 2003 Suzuki motorcycle. He bought that July 28, 2014. And then on July 31st, he bought a 1996 Toyota Camry. Rivera's bank account from Chase from May 2014 to November of 2015. His work checks were direct deposited. That was around $500 to $600 weekly from Coastal Masonry. His banking habits changed after the murder. All of his paychecks would be deposited, but then he would go and withdraw virtually all of it. He had preset auto drafts that would come in, but those would bounce because he didn't have the money in his accounts, which left him with a lot of overdraft charges. Right after the murder, he left money in the account with no overdrafts for about 4 months. His last big withdrawal before the murder was on July 15th, and the next time he overdrafted was November 1st, 2014. Between April 22nd and July 16th, his average balance in his bank account was $65.30, and he had 21 overdraft charges. 3 months after the murder, between July 17th and September 30th, his average balance was $249.94. There were no overdrafts. This is the time frame when he acquired the motorcycle and the car. And she said this is also an indication of another source of cash at the time. 3 to 6 months after the murder, between October 1st and December 31st, his average balance was $164.88 with 6 overdraft penalties. For Sigfredo, after the murder, he purchased a 1997 Honda Racer motorcycle on July 26th, a 1984 Monte Carlo on August 22nd, and then a Nissan Maxima on October 17th. She couldn't find a bank account that was before or shortly after the murder. He had one from July 15th to around July 16th of 2015. He was getting paychecks at Rapid Capital Funding, and around the time of the murder, his employment record with Coastal Masonry was very sporadic. He would work a few months, leave for a while, come back, rinse and repeat. As far as Katie, she owned a car at the time of the murder, and it was a Mazda. When reviewing records in the case, she found that Charlie helped her financially in 2014 with her car. They bring in a text from November 18th where Katie says she has to take it back tomorrow, and the parts alone are expensive for both, so I need a loan, buddy. Imagine if I took it to another mechanic. Charlie says, LOL, you'll be fine. I got you. I just texted Sully my credit card. Katie says, stop paying for crap on your card. May of 2015, they're still discussing her car repairs. Charlie tells her she needs to have her belt changed and to take the car to Mazda, and then he will take care of it for her. Katie texts back and says it came out to $1,620.77. And Katie responds, thanks again, I'll pay you back. She looked at Charlie's American Express card and found that payment. And at the end of 2015, Katie got a different car. DMV records shows it was purchased, and messages between Charlie and Katie confirm it. Charlie said he needed to cancel his insurance. Katie said she would get to it later. Right now, she has her kids, and Charlie said he would just pay for it. He texted her back and said, just spoke to mom. She's paying the insurance now. Just please go this Saturday. And then Charlie says, just paid it. They'll prorate it back to us. Katie says, I'll take care of it. Don't worry. Charlie says, already paid it 5 minutes ago. Just chill. You're still the best. DMV records show the title transfer between Harvey and Katie took place on January 23, 2016. This was for a 2001 black 4-door Lexus. The title indicates it was sold for $1,700. but she never could find any payment record from Katie to any of the Adelsons. There was also no cash withdrawal that correlated and no deposit into any of the Adelsons' account for that amount. There was also no drop in payments to Katie from the Adelson Institute to indicate that she was paying for it. They talk about how you can't insure a vehicle without a title transfer. You have to put a sales price or list it as a gift. But if you list a lower price, obviously, that makes your registration fees less. They talk about other finances between Charlie and Katie. Charlie, on his American Express on March 6, 2015, he bought airline tickets for Katie for a flight to Santo Domingo. That was $970.74. In a text, October 19, 2015, Katie asks if he has a hookup for plane tickets. She wants to leave for Thanksgiving and take her mom away for her mom's 60th birthday. She says, I have a guy, but I know what he wants. Charlie says he doesn't have any hookups. Katie said she wanted to do something nice for her mom, and maybe she'll rent an RV and just drive across country. Charlie asked, where do you want to take your mom? And asked if she wants him to get a cruise for them. Katie said she was thinking about a cruise too. Charlie says, perfect. They have really nice ones that you guys can leave on Friday and go to 2 ports and come back Monday, and you won't miss work. Charlie said, I think it would be super cool for you and mom to go on a Norwegian cruise. Let's look at dates. May of 2015, another message. Katie says she has a lot to pay for and she needs a little help because of her kids' tuition. And also she had to quit her weekend job. And she says, I hate asking. Charlie says, I'll lend you whatever you need. Bank records show on May 20th an ATM cash deposit for $1,400 into Katie's account, which is a large amount for her to deposit. He would also give her teeth whitening, meal plans, rides in fancy cars, or let her borrow one of his fancy cars from him throughout these years. On October 18th, 2014, Katie had her boob job. The total for that was $4,608. The records show it was paid in cash for $4,400, which is 96% of the charge. There was a $195 charge on Katie's debit card to cover that balance. But there were no withdrawals from Katie's account. From January of 2014 to October, she had only withdrawn a little over $2,000. On Katie's bank records, we see other employment deposits, but starting October 7th, 2014, she got $2,649.27 from the Adelson Institute in 2015. 2016, she got $10,189.50. Her last payment was May 17th of 2016, and up to that date, she had received $4,890.96. The total she got from the Adelson Institute in that time frame, $17,729. And remember, she never worked there. Before the murder, Katie was working at Sophie's Dental Care, and her last check from there was July of 2014, the month of the murder. There is no record of employment for her after the murder. She said the Adelson Institute was successful. Between 2012 and 2016, Donna had signing authority for the Adelson Institute, meaning she could move money around without approval. June 24th, 2014, not long before the murder, there is an iCloud reference of Katie starting to get checks from the Adelson Institute. There is a iCloud reference about the Adelson Institute on Katie's iCloud. She said she needs help on employment to send a DCF to show she's working for him so that she can get health insurance for her kids and a place to live. Charlie says no problem. You have to show employment for these. At the time, Charlie was also getting money from traveling around doing work for other dental practices, and she said he was very successful. As far as the checks from the Adelson Institute to Katie, they were deposited in her checking account mostly, but a couple of times she did put some in her savings. There were 44 checks total to Katie from the Adelson Institute. Each check was signed by Donna, and they show a few examples of these. We didn't see them on screen. As far as Donna's involvement in Charlie's life, she would book his travel, such as his plane tickets and his hotel. She would remind him to pay certain bills or transfer money from here to there. She ran his life in helping him keep up with his day-to-day needs. Now, the first check that Katie got from the Adelson Institute was October 8th, 2014, but The date on the check was September 17th, 2014, which is almost 2 months from the day that Dan was murdered and 3 months after she asked Charlie to list her as an employee. Katie got 2 checks a month for almost 2 years. They are all in the same amount, except that first check was half. She was paid for 1 week. That was $203.79. The rest of the time, her normal pay every 2 weeks was $407.58. Katie was still getting checks when she got her boob job. She looked for any indication they were taking money out of her payments, but there was nothing there to indicate that she had any time off, post-surgery, or a reduction in pay. They go through a lot of the Adelson Institute records, and I ain't going that deep because, y'all, I have a bad math learning disability. It wasn't caught until college, but you guys throw a bunch of numbers at me and my ears, you could probably see smoke coming out of them. A year before the murder, Katie's cash deposits totaled $13,035. The year of the murder, 2014, her cash deposits went from $13,000 to $46,820. 2015 cash deposits were $26,523.77. They move on to the house Wendy was looking to purchase, which was listed for $371,000. And the witness said Wendy did have the means in her account to pay a down payment comfortably. She looked back and found that Wendy also had the means to pay that $1 million bribe they were floating around. They had the money in 2014 to pay Katie and the hitmen, and Charlie had the money to give Katie cash and gifts, which doesn't include cash on hand that nobody would know about. She said the Adelson Institute preferred cash payments. There were lots of messages they found discussing giving discounts for cash. There were messages in the Adelson family records discussing having cash and how they store it. These messages were from 2011. In other messages, they talk about cash being in the safe or in piles in the safe. Donna would move money between the Adelson family accounts, and the safe is where Donna would have had access to it or control over it. On cross, what credit card statements did you review for Donna and Harvey? She said there were only 2, an American Express and a Capital One. The car that Katie had, that could have been a cash transaction. It was a 15-year-old car with between 140 and 160,000 miles on it, and the witness says yes. The defense asked if the cash discount offered at the Adelson Institute is equal to the same amount that someone would be charged if they paid by credit card, meaning they just took off the fee. But the witness can't say. On a redirect, they talk about the cash discounts that are referenced in text being for Charlie's work while he's traveling, but she points out there are also messages sent from the Adelson Institute. Yes. The last witness of the day was Sergeant Corbett from the Tallahassee Police Department. He goes over call detail records. He talks about how cell phone towers work, as well as Celebrite, which is the extraction software we hear about pretty much at every trial. And he also talks about how they take the forensic reports from Celebrite and put them into graphics that make it easier for somebody to follow, like at trial. So they looked at most frequent contacts with everybody. Sigfredo's was Katie, Katie's was Charlie, and Charlie was Donna's. So in a context of you've got the shooter, you've got the hitmen going to Katie, Katie going to Charlie, Charlie going to Donna. And they're just showing that order where parties don't commingle, but you have a clear line of communication between both sides. And really, it just leads back to Donna. He talks about how video, GPS, and cell towers are kind of like the trifecta of evidence because they can be verified independently, but when put together, it's pretty solid proof. Regarding Dan's movements the morning of the murder, we know he went from home to the preschool to the gym and then back home. The Tallahassee PD believed whoever shot Dan was possibly at the same locations following him that morning. They knew they had the Prius, so they did what they call a tower dump, which is they get all the transactions from certain cell sites that service particular areas in very specific time frames. And they look at the locations to see if there are any common phone numbers in the same location as Dan that morning. They did get cell phones present at these locations and times for them to look at and compare. He said they often will use software to crunch the numbers, but it gives them numbers that match what they're looking for. And they found a common number was around the gym in the call detail records at the same time as Dan. Now, not one number alone pinged every location, but one call was kind of a big clue, which was a 30-second voicemail from Sigfredo's cell phone to Harvey Adelson on July 1st, 2014. He mistakenly called Harvey thinking he was calling Charlie after they had that confrontation in the street where Sigfredo blocked the road after seeing Charlie with Katie, and he yelled at them. Katie earlier had testified that she thinks maybe he just Googled the Adelson Institute thinking he would get Charlie, but he got Harvey. Can you imagine when Harvey listened to that, y'all? Now, we know that the call was 37 seconds and it was a voicemail. That 37 seconds does not include how long the phone rang. And it was routed to voicemail, and there were no other communications between those two phones at all. As far as Garcia's phone, it showed he was in Tallahassee along with Dan's phone at the time Dan was being followed. They used surveillance from the gym that showed the Prius, which verified the GPS records from the Prius that they were there. Tower records and GPS show the rental Prius at the gym while Dan was there, and you also have surveillance showing the Prius waiting for him to leave. The GPS then shows the Prius following Dan towards his home, and not long after he was shot dead. They also bring in some iCloud records from July 2nd at 9:12 a.m., the day after Sigfredo called Harvey, and it shows Katie and Charlie making fun of Sigfredo. They call him some derogatory names. Katie apologizes to Charlie and says it's childish, but whatever. They look to see if there was anything of interest from the beginning of 2013 leading up to Dan's murder. They move into some Gmail accounts, and he explains the display name can differ from the email. So in the Harvey Donna at Gmail, obviously that's a Gmail account, and he explains you can go in and change your display name. Also, if you're checking your Gmail on a native iPhone app, you can do the same. So their joint email could change names based on what device they were using. They bring in some emails from Donna. She tells Wendy that Dan is a major effer, and I hope your attorney is the shark that is her reputation. It also says Dad was told by Gary yesterday, and they use this as an example to show this can give context as to who is sending emails. Well, saying Dad would indicate this was likely Donna who sent this email. May 21st, 2013, Donna to Wendy. She says, wow, he is such a royal jackass. How smart you are to get rid of this piece of crap. Signed, love you, Mom. The email showed Donna's strong interest in getting Wendy and the boys back to Miami. She tells Wendy in an email, relocation is the most important part of the divorce, and I hope your attorney knows this is your non-negotiable. Donna tells Wendy to tell her attorney things like their practice has suffered, they've had loss of income, and it affects Charlie too. At the end, it says, my brother is unmarried and a wonderful uncle to the boys. And if I'm able to relocate, they will have an incredibly warm and loving family as an integral part of their lives and not just an occasional 2-day weekend trip. At one point, Donna says she is just too angry to write anymore. They bring in an email after relocation was denied where Donna encourages Wendy to never, never give up. Time for action. Take control of your life and don't let him think he's won by having you remain in Tallahassee. Donna says their lives will all be affected by how well Wendy can perform in the next few weeks and reminds her she has a strong family behind her. They bring in the email where Donna suggests posing the boys in front of a church and getting them baptized and all that. They also bring in the $1 million offer email. October 12th, 2013. They show that an email that was sent by Dan was forwarded from Wendy to Donna, then Donna to Charlie. Donna then says to Charlie, Dan was absolutely crazy and impossible. This effer is sending this to your sister on a regular basis. And this is 2 weeks before Halloween when Charlie first approached Katie about, do you know somebody that could hurt someone? They bring in a text, October 13th, 2013. Horrible evening for your sister and for us. Dad finally had to walk outside to lower his blood pressure. Just awful. I can't even explain. Oh, by the way, back to Wendy's house with only one of the boys. Charlie says, I bet let's talk this week. They move on to October 30th, the day before. Charlie asks Katie if she knows a guy. Donna to Charlie, just got a text from Wendy casually mentioning that she's moving ahead with the purchase of the house that she liked. I guess she wants to do it before November 7th when she leaves for England. This morning was her last day with the boys for a while. How was your day? Charlie replies, she never told me. That same day, one day before him inquiring, Charlie texts Wendy, call you in 10 minutes. Wendy responds she's in court and she can talk at 4. On October 31st, the day Charlie approaches Katie, Charlie texts Wendy, how are you feeling today? There's a funny saying, if it flies, floats, or F's, rent it. I love you. Same day. Charlie to Donna. Spoke to Wendy. I think I've made some headway. Hope you're having an awesome time in Israel. Have a good night. From October 31st into November 1st, Charlie spoke to Wendy for 20 minutes last night. She texted me today that she pulled the plug on the house. Donna, wow, Charlie, thank you again. How did you accomplish that? You're a miracle worker. October 31st. Hi, honey, how are you today? Just got back from dinner and ready to go to bed. It's 11:15 p.m. now in Jerusalem. Saw a cute video today of the boys in their Halloween costumes that Danny sent to us since he had them for the holiday. And she puts holiday in quotes. We put our good wishes for you in the Western Wall today. Love you and look forward to speaking to you soon. Hugs, Mom and Dad. I'm reading this verbatim. Don't know what Charlie was saying, but November 1st, 2013. Charlie to Donna. For starters, Danny would have use any deposit Wendy put on a house as leverage. First thing she needs to do is get permission from him in the courts before she even thinks about anything. And I've had about 5 other really good reasons why this would have been the dumbest mistake of her life. Second dumbest life. Later on, Charlie, it took about 15 minutes of talking to her. I basically told her owning a house is like getting married and renting is like dating. Why the F would you want to get married again? Moving on, February 15th, 2014. Donna to Charlie. Wendy's totally stressed out. Yesterday was a rough one. She will probably have to go through another depo. Outrageous. Her attorney will claim he is abusing the justice system by filing repetitive motions on issues that have been resolved previously. And oh, by the way, the $500,000 account is the same $50,000 he tried to get his hands on last time, but it was always in Wendy's name. Same day. Total waste of the court's time. Yesterday, he sent Wendy a text. He saw her leaving the school in our car at 2:07 p.m. He is stalking her. She spoke to a friend who's an attorney about filing a protective order. Very hard to do that unless there is a previous history of threats or abuse. I still think she should let the judge know that he's stalking her, and Charlie says he agrees. Donna to Charlie. She told Wendy that this lady is a crazy judge. She sees 2 cases per day compared to most judges who stands 5 to 10 cases per day. That's why she's waited 5 months for this hearing. Charlie responds, her $600 an hour attorney needs to give a refund or a letter of complaint to the bar. Is Wendy mad at her attorney yet? Donna says yes, but don't get jet worked up about it. She's too stressed about it. Let's just keep conversation with her light and not to add to what she's dealing with. Let her just get through Monday with positive family support. Nothing stressful. Trust me on this. 2 days later, February 17th, 2014. Are you at work or home today? I hope you're feeling better. Just left the courthouse. Charlie responds he is at work. Same day, how did it go? Donna says, okay, we'll talk later. Later on February 17th, 2014, Donna to Charlie. The judge was really pissed at him for not paying Wendy, but she will allow them to depo her with very strict limitations on the questions. Then, Wendy wants the parenting coordinator questioned because she hates Danny and will ask the court to have him court-appointed psychological testing. 2 days later, February 19th. If you speak to Wendy today, tread lightly. Don't ask questions about the depo, her lawyer, etc. Tough time and she's really stressed out. The a-hole showed up at soccer yesterday, and when she tried to leave with the boys, he said, no, stay here and play with Abba. She to the boys that Abba had to leave, and he said, no, I don't. Of course, she woke up to another email from him telling her that she is lying to the boys about their father's whereabouts and that this will be brought up before the court. Such an effer. It was Wendy's day. He is allowed to attend the children's activity, but that's where it ends. Fast forward to March 4th, 2014. Donna texts Charlie, 37 miles to Gainesville. I can't talk now, but I'll text you before we stop in Gainesville where I can go to the bathroom and have a moment of privacy. Then I'll call. Please pick up because I will have very limited alone time today. Erase this text after you read it. A little bit later, Donna to Charlie, we'll stop in about 5 minutes and I can speak to you privately about Dad's birthday gift when I'm out of the car. I have some good ideas. And she puts the little kissy face emoji. Charlie says, great. Little time passes. Charlie says, if you don't pick up, I'll call you back in 30 seconds. And Donna responds, don't call yet. I need 5 minutes till we get to Panera Bread. May 30th, 2014. This is just before Sigfredo and Rivera make that first trip to Tallahassee. Donna to Charlie. It's at $8.82. What did you buy it at? Wendy is at Tallahassee Airport, headed horrible morning with Danny. She was traveling to Portland with Tova. Tough conversation with her. And that's where we ended for the day. That is it. Don't forget to come watch the live stream with us tomorrow. And again, I will recap likely into episodes tomorrow morning and then later tomorrow afternoon. All right, that's it. Have a good one. We will see you soon.